But we had a really good panel discussion, and one of the things that I took from it that I don't think I had really paid much attention to. Mind you, I am not into cybersecurity. We do have an IT team for that. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting was the whole concept of account handover versus account takeover. And I think there may be others who, like myself, who haven't even given much thought to that. We think about, yes, who we're signing the contract with, but we don't think about who they're handing it over to. So that I found really, really insightful. Before I introduce our next speaker, I would just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. And I'll mention a few and then we'll mention some more later. But Huawei as the summit co-host and headline sponsor, ReviewSoft, our digital banking solutions partner, BioKey, whom you've heard from quite a bit, the biometrics partner, Microsoft, the lead sponsor, and Finastra, the open banking partner. We would just like to say thank you for helping to make this program a success. There are other sponsors, and we will make sure that we also thank you and call your name as well as we go throughout the program. But once again, welcome back from the break. And up next, we have Mr. Robert Dzato, and he is the lead Financial Services Strategy and Operations for KPMG Ghana. Robert, it is a pleasure to have you with us. And in the interest of time, I will hand it over to you to get started immediately. Thank you. Robert, please go ahead.
Just if you can hear me. So in terms of the KPMG perspective, there are a number of mega trends that we are beginning to see that are disruptive to business and operating models of banks. And one of those critical mega trends is the customer and the customer experience. So over the years, we've paid specific attention to this area. And so what you will hear very, very briefly is the fact that we are in the customer age. I'll share with you the tale of two countries in terms of the shifting profile and expectations of customers as we say it. But what is most important is how do you win the customer battle? How should financial institutions, particularly banks, position themselves to win the battle on the customer experience? So it's fair to say that the customer experience really is the new battleground. And when we talk about the age of the customer, we can go back in history and see how organizations actually achieved dominance in the past. And so if you look at the turn of the century in the 1900s, you will see that ability to manufacture in bulk and actually market that successfully made organizations like Ford, Boeing, GE very powerful. Then we move to the age of distribution. Your ability to have connected distribution network really gave you opportunity to really dominate. And then around the 1990s, we came to the information age. But fast forward by 2020, maybe 2010 into where we are now, your ability to really think about the customer and design your processes and business model is critical. So design thinking around the customer has become an imperative. So you see the likes of Uber, Airbnb, and the rest achieving dominance. I think the key message here is really to be successful in today's world and beyond, in the age of the customer. You need to constantly reinvent yourself, take systematic, if you like, steps and design your business and operating model to understand and serve customers, because customers are getting increasingly powerful. So what do we know about the customer and what are we seeing? So we see shifts in the channels that customers are using. We see acceleration in innovation to respond to the customer's need. But even crucially is the fact that we are seeing customers demanding instant access to the services and products or solutions that they're asking for. And the customer is becoming increasingly powerful, right? And we also see depth of complexity. Customers want things very simplified and straight to the point, whilst also making sure that the services you are providing are really advanced, right? So our view from a KPMG perspective is that whilst the customer experience has always been very, very important, the shifts in expectations that we are seeing has also been accelerated by COVID-19. And so you can see COVID-19 as an accelerator around the customer experience and expectations. So here's a tale of two countries for you. Across West Africa and across the region, we see the rise of millennials and Gen Zs. And Gen Zs are people born maybe just around 1995, millennials much earlier, around the 80s. And they constitute the bulk of our population, right? And what you find is there is some kind of divide, but also some convergence. You see the millennials that are highly educated and tech savvy. We see high mobile penetration in terms of how they want to get things done, a rise in income and largely banked. But then we quickly see on the other side, the less educated, but also have high mobile penetration and clearly demanding even more in terms of the service experience as well. And so the question really is, how do you position yourself to delight these different customer segments, right? Driving customer experience. We conducted at KPMG a customer experience survey over the years. And what we are beginning to see is significant shifts in the channels that customers are using. And so if you can see my slide, in 2016, we looked at branch usage, and we looked at ATM usage, we looked at call center usage, internet banking. And you find that fast forward from 2016 to 2020, we see significant shift in internet banking, for example, from 3% in 2016 to 22%. Look at mobile 4% in 2016 in terms of customer usage as a channel. Move on to 2020, it's about 30%. And the same goes for ATMs as well. ATMs as well. And from a channel perspective, we are beginning to see significant shifts in the customer behavior and the channel that customers are using. Now, we have over the years looked at what's the state of play in the banking sector, particularly if you look at it from the KPMG lens. And I'll talk about our proven methodology around the way to transform the customer. And these are 6 pillars, which I'll share with you. But when we look at the state of play through the lenses of the 6 pillars that I'll talk about, you'll find that expectation really is high, and so is empathy, integrity across the banking sector in terms of what customers think is rather low. And integrity here is measured around charges and expectations in terms of interest rates that customers pay. So clearly, if you look at this is a state of play, if specifically in the banking sector or retail segment in Ghana. So what are the 6 pillars, and how do you then win given the shifting expectations and shifting profile and expectations of customers that we see? Now, the 6 pillars certainly are what we call, for example, personalization. How do you personalize things to the customer? That individualized attention that you give to the customer. And that's very, very important. Then, of course, there's resolution. Will things go wrong? Yes. As you serve customers, things are likely to go wrong. But how you recover, how you resolve them, it's very, very important. It can change a customer from being very unhappy to quickly becoming a really fan of your organization. And then integrity is key. Do your customers trust you and trust your brand? And do you keep your promise to them? That's a specific pillar that if you really want to transform the customer experience you really have to pay attention to. And of course, you have to manage expectations and time and effort that it takes the customer to assess your products and services is crucial. What we've also found beyond the pillars is that perhaps these pillars, if you pay attention to them carefully, the 6 pillars from KPMG perspective can actually operate and do operate in a manner as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you really as a company need to address the customer needs at the lowest pillar level before progressing to the upward, or if you like, the self-actualization in terms of the customer experience. So if you want to really address specific customer issues, then the starting point is certainly integrity, resolution, very, very important. In the middle, then is expectation and how you manage the expectation of the customer, and the time and effort. Personalization and definitely empathy are almost like the self-actualization level of the customer experience. And that's very, very important. So organizations need to look at the pillars, but also ask themselves at what level in that hierarchy of the 6 pillars am I, to be able to then address and exceed the expectations of the customer. We think that at KPMG, certainly understanding the customer comes from 2 angles, and one is really paying attention to the customer, specifically around the wallet of the customer. How do they spend their money? And of course, what are the devices they are connected to, or what are the various social media platforms that they are connected to? What's their behavior in those platforms? But also, what's their motivation? What are the things that are important to them? What are the things that they pay attention to? And definitely, once you understand that, you can use the KPMG 6 pillars to transform that. We think that data is really critical, so you must be insight-led in driving the customer experience, and you definitely have to be deliberate and intentional about it. We take an outside-in perspective, so get external insights, but definitely your platforms need to be designed to be human-friendly, and certainly you need to empower your frontline. Data is the new oil, and I think that has been emphasized by a number of speakers up to this point. But certainly investment in data should go beyond just the technology, but how do you drive data into the business model in terms of day-to-day activities of your organization? In our view, you certainly need to pay attention to the pillars, but you need to do that within a clear customer strategy proposition. And definitely you need to define that customer strategy in terms of what you want to do, how you want to do it, and over what time period. Certainly digital transformation is an important.
Thank you, Robert. Though that was an abrupt ending, should we have any questions, we will most definitely reach out to you.